All right, it is time for us to look at the Apple Watch Series 10 website. We're going to dive deep into the web page. We're going to look at everything going on with it, their marketing strategies, their web development. What are they doing? What's working? What maybe do I think they could do a little bit different? Now, I am going in totally cold because I want to see how this impacts me as a consumer. I have an Apple Watch. It's a Series 5, and so it's definitely getting a little bit older. Let's see if the Series 10 actually makes a difference for me as a consumer, but I definitely like looking the most at what they're doing with marketing and web design. I do those things professionally, and so I really like checking that kind of stuff out. I've been checking out all the websites for the latest Apple products, and so if you want to check out more, I'll have a link to a playlist covering all of them down in the description. Now, let's go ahead and click Learn More and dive into the Apple Watch Series 10. So here we go. All right, Thinstant Classic. Apple loves their puns, and that is plenty good. A lot of people were expecting the Apple Watch Series 10 to be a really big deal, a la the iPhone 10 that came out in 2017. This, to my understanding, at least based on rumors, they probably didn't do that much with it. So let's see what they're really hyping up. So Thinstant Classic, obviously that must mean that it is extra thin. How thin? We'll find out. The thing about a watch is I don't feel like it needs to be that thin. I've never really, with my current watch, I've never been like, man, wish that were thinner. Like there are things I'd love, but that doesn't matter a whole lot to me. All right, just like the iPhone 16 Pro and iPhone 16, as well as the 15 Pro and 15, we have this highlights section that automatically scrolls through. I think that is a great section, much better than the traditional kind of slider that a lot of web pages have used. So, all right, so what have we got? It's also interesting because the Apple needs to market these pages in such a way as to convince people to upgrade, but also to convince people to check out the product to begin with. So they need to cover on a web page like this, they need to cover, hey, here's what makes this Apple Watch better than previous ones, but also here's why I want an Apple Watch to begin with. And I feel like Apple often leans too much into the upgrade idea, where they're marketing to people who already own an Apple Watch and they're trying to show off the new things it can do. I think that just focusing a lot on just what makes an Apple Watch great is a move that I personally wish that they would put more into these pages. I'm at the very beginning here, so we'll see what they actually do. But I just know that that's typically how they've handled a lot of things. And I think that a lot of people who are totally new to the Apple Watch, well, the Series 10 would be a perfect place to start. But are they actually understanding everything that makes an Apple Watch and the whole experience? So let's go ahead and look at this. Thinnest Apple Watch ever with our biggest display. Okay, very good. Big displays are nice. Thin is nice, I guess. All right, let's move on to the next one here. So it just has this nice little animation at the bottom that goes through this bar and then it moves to the next slide. Get valuable health insights, including sleep apnea notifications coming this month. This, I feel like this is going a little bit fast. It's a little faster than I'm comfortable reading. So let's go back and then well, that's interesting. Okay. Here we go. New depth and water temperature sensors for your aquatic adventures. Okay, so I imagine, the Apple Watch Ultra has some of that kind of stuff. I don't personally do all that many aquatic adventures that require anything fancy, certainly. So that's probably not going to appeal to me. All right, let's look at the next one. Fastest charging Apple Watch ever, 80% battery in 30 minutes. Now, the Apple Watch and charging, I know on the Series 7, I believe they did an upgrade for its charging speed. And then right here, the idea of faster charging, that sounds fantastic. There's definitely something to be said for battery life, but there's also something to be said for if you put it on a charger, how fast can it replenish? Battery life is better, but fast charging is a second place good idea relative to solving the same kind of problem. So good on them there. And then what do we got here? New ways to fine-tune your fitness experience, like customizing activity rings to match your lifestyle. I wonder what that means. That's interesting. I've always wondered if, like, Apple's leaning more and more and more into customization for different products. And I feel like that's great, but on the other hand, it is adding complexity, which, makes some of the advanced features less appealing to new consumers, or just kind of your more everyday consumers. And yeah, I wonder to what extent people would actually use some of this. All right, so that's the highlights. Nothing standing out to me. And again, I feel like if you're someone brand new and you're like, hey, I don't have an Apple Watch, is this a good product for me? I don't feel like I wish, I don't know. It'd be very difficult for Apple to do. That's one of the things about marketing and data. The more data you have about the people coming to your webpage, the more that you can customize your messaging to them. This webpage is designed to capture people who are looking to upgrade, not people who are new to the Apple Watch series of products. And so if it is someone new, I think that there's way better highlights that they could put at the top of this page. But yeah, all these seem kind of weak relative to reasons to care about the Apple Watch in the first place. So, and it's also very tricky because a lot of the products that they do, Apple Watch Series 9 to Series 10 or Series 6 to Series 7, like there's always fewer upgrades from one to the next, and these product pages typically focus on those few small little kind of gravy features. Rarely are there like really big deal things that just the whole world pays attention to. And so yeah, it becomes very, very difficult from a sales perspective, I think, especially as all these products that they've just released are very mature. The Apple Watch, AirPods, iPhone, they're very mature products. And so it's really, really difficult only so many people are going to really, really care about the small little things that you did when so much of the baked in awesomeness of your product is across the older models too. So yeah, I think it's a bit of an uphill battle. And I think it would be interesting for Apple to play around with ways to direct its marketing to new people a little bit better, because I just don't think this is going to appeal to new people very well. All right, I like this animation. I like scrolling down onto it. You see the watch face right there. I do feel like this is a little bit grainy. This is a scale effect, and it's also sticking. The website is stopping and sticking there, and so yeah. So we definitely have a dramatic zoom. So yeah, that image when it first comes in doesn't look the best to me. So I wonder if there are ways to better optimize that. Anyway, monumental display. Very nice. Yeah, like the display on my Apple Watch Series 5 is completely fine. So I'm sure that this one's better, but yeah, it's not a reason to pay hundreds of dollars in my mind. I like this. I really like it comes in from an animation perspective, and then they spin it, and then they have more text show up right here in the loop, and you get to see the animation of the loop, the band closing. I think that's really, really clever. I love just how centered and the balance of this design. I think that's really, really nice. So now we're going down here. Oh, I like this. Okay, that's a good idea. See, this is what you want to do on web pages, especially for things like physical products, and especially if you're trying to compare something to something new. But even here, it's interesting because I believe, I don't remember to what extent, but I believe that the Series 6 to the Series 7, there was some level of a redesign. At the very least, the screen got bigger. I don't know if it was thinner. And that's why they say here, the Series 7, Series 8, Series 9, they're pretty much quite similar. And so that's why they're grouping them all together. But a lot of people are probably on older Apple Watches than that. And so there might be an even more dramatic difference. But anyway, I really like this slider. That's a nice visual slider. Interesting. A lot of times on web pages with this kind of thing, you drag the slider itself. Like the actual white bar in this case. Very interesting that they went with this pill-shaped blue slider down here below it. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you can tell that it's clearly thinner, but also while it is thinner, is it thinner? Like if you're actually looking at it from a percentage level, like, yes, does that make a difference? Yes. And I think it's very difficult to display, to communicate to a user, to a potential consumer of your product. It's very difficult to explain, hey, we made this thinner, and how does that actually benefit you? They put together this graphic because it's like, hey, you don't believe us that it's thinner, you want to see what kind of difference that makes. They did this to actually make it feel like it's a big difference, and to some extent it is. At least it's definitely clearly thinner, But also, like, if you actually look at it from like a mathematical perspective, that is slight. That is just a little bit. So on the one hand, it helps them, but on the other hand, not so much. I think if they actually wrote down the percentage of how much thinner it is, I don't think it would look that impressive. So this is probably a good way to do it. It's tricky when, are people going to respect what you've done with a product, or are people just going to not care? It's tricky to make people care. I like this, how this little description comes into view. I like that Apple uses a lot of those subtle animations. So yeah, that's really nice how it just kind of fades up in there. Okay, once again, they're doing the same kind of thing here. That's really good. And here, see, this is better. They're comparing the Series 3. I think that's what you do. You compare the Series 3 to this. That's a very good idea. Also, of course, you see a much more dramatic difference with the Series 3. Yeah, the screen has definitely improved since the Series 3 for sure. So let's replay this real quick. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I have, the Series 5. Interesting that they're not comparing it at all to the Series 7, 8, 9. They compared the Series 7, 8, 9 up here, but they're not doing it down here. That must mean that the screen's hardly different in any super meaningful way. So yeah, man, like choosing some up here and others down here, like just it's inconsistent in a way that's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky to get the right people to really understand what's going on here. Anyway, okay, that's a nice graphic. That's really, really nice. That looks fantastic. And that is not a scroll animation. That is a triggered animation. So if we replay that, yeah, that's nice. I like that a lot. You see that come in, and then, okay, jet black high gloss. So they have a new kind of finish, it looks like, for the first time. It comes in eye-catching jet black aluminum. I've never been a finishes person. I've never really cared about the metal. If it has like thermal advantages or something, then that's great. But other than that, I care a little bit about color, but I don't care much about the material. So especially on something like an Apple Watch where so much of it is screen and you're hardly seeing what's around it. But yeah, I mean, that does look good. I'll give them credit. And of course, they're doing a good job. This, you have all this white up here, and then you get down and it's just woo black. Like they're doing a good job of theming it very well. I think that works. Okay, so are they only doing 3 colors? It looks like they're only doing 3 colors. I know that they had some controversial colors with the midnight and the starlight and stuff like that. So doing rose gold, yeah, it looks like it's only 3. Silver, rose gold, and jet black. I probably would, for me, I would probably like the jet black the most out of these. But yeah, interesting. I feel like they've done more colors in the past. This on my monitor, and I'm sure this wouldn't be the case on all monitors, but it's causing this little like circular optical illusion to kind of come in there. I don't know if you can see that with whatever you're viewing from, but it's interesting that it's creating this weird little like circles kind of pushing in on it. Optical illusion right there. I'm certain that's not intentional. It doesn't look very good. But yeah, I like the background. I like the graphic design here. I think that's good. Titanium polished to perfection. Okay, so they have the iPhone using titanium, and so now they're using titanium for the Apple Watch as well. So that makes sense. That's probably a good idea. Again, that's not really going to appeal to me, but I'm sure it'll appeal to some people. All titanium finishes. Okay, so they have 3 of those as well. Natural, gold, and slate. Interesting that they have a gold titanium for the Apple Watch, but they do not have a gold titanium for the iPhone. That's interesting. Anyway, all right. Now we're looking at health insights for days and nights. I like that. I think Apple does a good job of, a lot of times with marketing and copy on web pages and other marketing assets, you want to be really smart about being clear. You don't want to be confusing with your headlines and things like that. So, but at the same time, I do think that Apple actually strikes a really good balance between being clear but also being a little bit clever. Because you could just say, helps you track your health metrics. Like that's one of the most clear things you can say. But you can also say like, makes your body feel inspired or something like that. Something a lot more vague, and that's not the best line, obviously. But a lot of people try and get really fancy with like creative words that really just aren't descriptive. I feel like Apple does a good job of being descriptive and clear while also being a little bit creative. So I think they're a good company to learn from in that regard. All right. So talking about health. Sleep apnea. So sleep apnea is a feature that they're coming out with. I guess, okay, so like certain people are diagnosed with sleep apnea, and I know that, I'm sure, I don't know exactly what this does relative to sleep apnea, but I'm sure it could help. But a lot of people don't have sleep apnea, though it is interesting that 80% of sleep apnea cases are undiagnosed. I wonder how they know that they're undiagnosed. But yeah, so it could be helpful to have an extra monitor being like, hey, like, this could be something you're dealing with. But also, I don't want to get into this right now, but I know that with a lot of the health issues, sometimes there's these warnings that come up like, oh, you could have this, and it just freaks people out unnecessarily. So there's pros and cons to that. Anyway, okay, I like this. So generates. Okay, so this isn't a new feature, the ECG, but they are advertising it on this page, which I think this is the kind of stuff that Apple should be doing. They should be stacking up like, hey, here's all the awesome things about our product, this and this and this and this. And then they should just have a section that's like for new features, new, exclusive to the Apple Watch Series 10. I think that makes a lot of sense because like stuff like the ECG, but lots of other things too. So we have vital metrics, cycle, sleep metrics. Those are definitely good things to highlight. But yeah, I feel like just that, and none of those are particularly new. I mean, there might be like a little part of it that's a touch newer. You can do it better because it has more battery life with the Series 10 or something. But yeah, I feel like this is the kind of stuff, and these are all health features specifically, but just in general, they should be highlighting things that apply to multiple iterations of the Apple Watch, but things that just, because it's not even just about attracting new consumers, it's even about attracting the current consumers, because a lot of people who currently own an Apple Watch don't even know all the features of it. And so making a big deal about just the whole feature set, like what does it do, why is it awesome, that I think that would be just a better move. At least you could also have two separate web pages. You could have a whole separate, they have different web pages up here, overview, why Apple Watch, tech specs. But I feel like just having here's the Apple Watch Series 10, and then they could even have a whole separate page for what's new in the Apple Watch Series 10. I know that, I'm sure if we click on this real quick, the why Apple Watch, it probably talks about a lot of the general stuff that you can do with Apple Watch. But here's the thing. People aren't going to this page first in general. They're going to the Apple Watch Series 10. And I'm not saying you need to make the whole thing just all the features of Apple Watches in general, but I think that you should highlight that a little bit more, because this is where people are going to go as their main place for checking out what's up with the Apple Watch. So yeah, I think that there's some strategy reconsideration that can happen there. All right, Fit for Anything. Series 10 is the perfect fitness partner. It motivates you to stay active. I'm sure it does. All right, they're going to talk about swim workouts, new depth sensor, great for swimming and snorkeling. And so yeah, once again, we're talking about features that are more just across the Apple Watch ecosystem in general. I think that that's a good idea. Just all the features that are across the ecosystem in general. I think that's what you should highlight, because again, even people who are looking to upgrade, they're gonna not realize that their own Apple Watch even does that. And it just, a lot of the point of a page like this is just to really get consumers excited. And I think like there are a lot of really exciting things about the Apple Watch, just maybe not things that are always exclusive to the Series 10. Intelligent ways to stay connected. You can do cellular if you want and go without your phone. Smarts that stack up. Translate. See, again, pretty much all of this is not new stuff. All of this is stuff that's more consistent with the Apple Watch family as a whole. However, it's not really clear. Like again, to a new person, they wouldn't know what's new and what's different. I would say, hey, here's all the new features about the Apple Watch Series 10, and then here's what makes Apple Watch great, and here's how the Apple Watch. And you get all that on the Apple Watch Series 10, and here's how it kind of incorporates into the Apple Watch Series 10. But I think that like new and exclusive, I think just communicating that would be a good idea, because it's hard for us, again, especially new people, to understand, hey, yeah, this is actually something new. A lot of this stuff, you don't know what's new and what's not new. Anyway, keep close at hand for SOS and other things. They're not really leaning in. It's interesting, like, this is just this section I don't like because it's so long. It's like I'm looking at a billboard. This is too long. Like, don't give me just an image and make me scroll further. Like, there's nothing interesting about that. A lot of what they were doing up above was more interesting from a web design perspective. Now we're just doing some more standard, here's a background and some text on the background. It's at least consistent, like a big section with some text, with a little bit of text, but it's way too much. Like, you want to be visual with your web pages, but that's too much. This isn't as bad. But again, like, you want the reader to be able to see a whole section at once. So we have keep close at hand, and when it says keep close at hand, it's talking about these features, and then these are explained. All you need to do is maybe shorten the gap a little bit, your margins here. You can shorten that a little bit and make the image just a little bit smaller, and then you can fit all of this right there. But they're not doing that, and it forces me to like keep the context of the whole thing. It forces me to scroll up and down, and that is not nearly as good of an experience for users, and it's less likely that users are going to do that. All right, design to make a difference. I like, again, the little fade up. Subtle. It's subtle, but it's nice. It's subtle, but it's nice. Why Apple is the best place to buy Apple Watch. Here's all the ways you can buy it. These are going to be basically the same as what I reviewed with the iPhone page. Yeah, it's tricky with a lot of the Apple products, because with a typical web page, a product sales web page, you just want to direct people to a buy button and a simple checkout experience. But Apple has like a bajillion different ways to buy things. So it does unfortunately make things cluttered. And so literally to buy something, they need to show you all these cards. Anyway, Apple's a different kind of brand, so they can get away with it. But yeah, it is unfortunate that they can't just have a simple, hey, here's what you need to do to buy. All right, this is the first button I've seen. These buttons were a little bit more popular with the 2023 products, I believe. So yeah, interesting that they are. Yeah, this is the first button I've seen on this page, and I like that the button, the little button. And when I say first button, I mean the first like pop-up button. Like, obviously these are buttons and that's a button, and like they have some other stuff, but I'm talking about like these kind of transparency, blurry buttons that have the blue arrow or plus on them. Anyway, and then now down here we're comparing between the different Apple Watch models. I do think what's nice is that they have successfully, like, the Apple Watch Series 10 is currently many steps away, many steps better than the Apple Watch SE. They used to be closer with feature sets, but now the Apple Watch Series 10 is, I think it's quite a bit better. So to the standpoint that people who are considering getting an SE, a lot of them will jump up to the Series 10 because of how much better it is, especially with that redesign will help and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I think that'll help until they come out with a new SE. But anyway, we'll see. I do think, it's unfortunate because, again, like this always on display, that's a big deal. I love that about my Apple Watch. Granted, I have it all the way back on the Series 5, but I love that about my Apple Watch. I just think that, they could say something about it. And it's like, the always on display can do this, and it's never looked better because of the, big display that we have on this watch. I think that there are ways you can talk about, I'll call them legacy features, but still make them really exciting relative to the current product. But yeah, like the only way anyone's going to know that this has an always on display, which is, I think, a really cool thing. The only way people are going to know that is if they literally come all the way down here and check out the comparison, this little comparison here. Anyway, and then we got our footer links. So that is the Apple Watch Series 10. We've gone through pretty much everything. Yeah, there's, honestly, compared to some other Apple pages, like this is not super thorough. Like there's not a ton of content. I mean, I know it's a long enough page, but like I definitely feel like plenty of other products have been way longer. And yeah, I don't know, not my favorite. Not terrible, but definitely not my favorite. I also don't even like how on this particular screen, I'm just using a modern Mac with Safari, as standard Apple as you can get. But like, this looks bad. Look at this down here. This is above the fold. So, you know, the fold is at the bottom of where my monitor is, and you have to scroll to get past the fold. That's what's considered the fold when the page first loads. So anyway, when you first load, you just have this ugly little bar down here, and it's part of the next section, but that would look a lot cleaner if this was just all white and if the band went all the way down. They just need to resize that a little bit. I have no idea why they wouldn't do that. That is strange to me. Anyway, we'll just scroll through one last little time to get a good little look at everything. The Apple Watch Series 10. Yeah, they definitely haven't. I know I've talked a lot about, you know, them attracting new people. I'm not a new person to Apple Watch. I've had an Apple Watch for a while. I do like it, and I am interested in an upgrade at some point. But yeah, I think they're really struggling with features. I feel like they've done a decent job of communicating some of the features here, but I think that a lot of it, you know, you can only market well what actually is a good product. And I'm sure it is a good product. It's just compared to my Apple Watch Series 5, 98% of everything I ever want to do with an Apple Watch, I'm certain that this can do. And you know, I can get 2% more by getting the Apple Watch Series 10, but yeah, that's a lot of money and not a lot of good compelling reason for me personally as a consumer and even somewhat of an Apple enthusiast to upgrade. So anyway, just an interesting thought there. All right, so that is the Apple Watch Series 10 official Apple website, and we've now seen it, we've explored it, we've got it figured out. I've done a lot of other web page reviews, and if you'd like to check out another one, you can go ahead and click right here. And as always, if you want my free marketing crash course where I cover the new fundamentals of marketing, how to grow an audience, how to get sales, how to do great web design, make sure you go to marketingfornormalpeople.com, or you can click or scan right here. All right, catch you later.